Purple Heart Homes presents Putting the Pieces Back Together, a forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Gallina and Brad Borders.
Well, I'm here, but I don't know about Brad Borders. He's out playing hockey somewhere, I think.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, he's eating MREs and enjoying those Laura Dern cookies. You ever had those?
Absolutely not. and I would not eat MRE cheese either.
Oh my gosh, that's the best part. I don't know what.
Yeah, well, that you would say that as a Marine.
You mix it with a little Tabasco sauce and put it in there.
Mix it with a little Tabasco sauce.
Yeah.
I see. So, it's funny because I've been doing some research about devil dogs, and, I always thought, that was kind of like this term of endearment that meant something like you were a hardcore fighter. And when you do a Google search on the words devil dogs, what you actually get is something that looks like a Twinkie. It's
that?
A chocolate cream filled
chocolate
cake. It says freshness guaranteed.
Wait, is that Drake's? Isn't that the if Brad were here, he would certainly be making a Seinfeld reference.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And so I have this whole new picture of what a devil dog is. It's soft and mushy and not hardcore, but and it looks a lot like you there, Devin.
That's a splitting image.
And just like that devil dog right there. You get too much of me, it's probably not going to be very good.
Just to let all our listeners know, I know they're all worried. Here I am picking on the young Marine here. He might hurt me, but just to let everybody know, I brought reinforcements today. We got 3 hardcore Army killers here with us today. They're going to protect me from the Marines.
Oh gosh. I actually thought that I had showed up at the office for a second. What's going on here?
Yeah, you pretty much did show up to the office. This is the office for the day.
Oh, I suppose so. Yeah.
We're going to sit around. We're going to talk about all the great work we've got going on, and some of the projects we've completed, and some of the projects we've got coming up.
Oh yeah, it sounds exciting.
Really, really exciting. Now you got to be on your best behavior because you do have to go back to the office with all these fellas. So make sure to mind your P's and Q's.
I'm fairly certain if they don't have it in for me already,
they might by the end of the day.
By the end of the day.
Yeah. All right. And so I noticed that you're not wearing your headphones and you're really loud. So maybe we need to, tone it down just a little.
They make my ears sweat.
They make your ears sweat. All righty then. So now that explains why you shave your head.
That's okay. It's nothing.
Let's turn to our guest here. We've got in studio with us today Matt Stevensen. Matt, I want you to share a little bit about yourself. Where you're from and how you came to join the military.
I am born in Charlotte, and as a child moved up here. Family from Iredell County, Alexander County, and served in the Army and National Guard for about 23 years. 23 years and 1 month.
All right. Matt, when I first met you, you were a combat medic. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I actually have 5 MOSs, and so I started off in the infantry, and then went into the medical, and then from the medical, when I came full-time in the Guard, I ended up going to supply. So I had an old Sergeant Major tell me one time, he's like, he said, "I've heard about you." And I was like, "Yeah." He said, you can kill them, you can fix them, and you can feed them. That's pretty good in my book.
That is pretty good right there.
Well, I will say you were one of the most loved in the unit when I served with you, and as most people that serve in the military, it's the medic and the supply sergeant that they want to be best friends with.
Yeah, that is certainly true.
Certainly lovable. We've got 2 other guests here in studio with us. We've got Mark Grindall, and then we've got Heart Attack Rob. I think probably one of our first national celebrities we've had on the show with us today.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
our good friends Woody and Wilcox love Rob Harrell, and as we do too. And so, Mark, we'll start with you real quick and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you came to join the military.
All right. Well, I'm Mark Grindall, and I'm originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I moved out here roughly right out of high school, and I always had a heart of going into the military. I have a long line of military family, so
Going in the Army was definitely where I needed to be. And I have like Matt, I've got a few MOSs myself. Started out as infantry at 82nd, and then I switched over to transportation, but it was more for a VIP handler's position, where I was driving colonels and generals and, working alongside some of the higher ups, getting them where they need to be, providing security and stuff. Managed to do multiple tours overseas and did exactly 13 years. I was medically retired.
13 years.
Wow. Well,
Wish I could have stayed over 20, but that's all right. I'll take what I got.
Thank you for your service. I
Appreciate
completely understand the goal for 20. I know myself, when I got to 9 years and 10 months, I said, I think I've had enough, because if I do over 10, then I've got to go to 20. That's the goal, right?
Yep.
But so thank you for that. Rob, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. Rob Harrell. Heart attack Rob, I reckon. But,
Why do they call you Heart Attack Rob? Tell us about
I
that.
tend to have heart attacks on trips.
Okay, now wait a minute. Not
Tend
just
to have
on
heart
trips.
attacks.
You're so dedicated on a trip to Alaska to go help a veteran that was dying with cancer and needed some home repairs so he could have access to his home and spend his final days in his home. You persevered through a heart attack to make sure you completed that project, that you were there through that whole project, and that's how Woody and Wilcox gave you the name Heart Attack Rob.
That's true.
Now I think a lot of the folks that were listening to Woody and Wilcox, they wanted to call you Heartthrob Rob.
Heartthrob Rob? Yeah, I don't know about
That one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, he had the heart
He
attack
gets
on
my
the
pulse
plane,
going.
right?
On the plane, headed
there.
to Alaska and refused to go home.
Right.
He was determined to see the project through.
Yeah, well, I had an Army doctor fix me up at the hospital, so I was able to stay. So kudos to him.
No.
But
You
Yeah.
knew that you were having the heart attack, and you did not have them stop it.
yes,
No,
Yeah.
after he got off the plane, we
I pretty much knew I
Had
was
to
having a
go to
heart
the
attack
hospital.
on the plane, and that, I looked around. I mean, what are they going to do? It's going to freak everybody out. There's this really, really big guy next to me, and I'm not interested in being revived by him. And so I just sat there and sipped water and prayed, and after about 45 minutes, it eased off, and I continued on till the next morning. I had another one that night in my bed, and then it kind of went away, and then I continued on till about lunchtime until Tammy finally drugged me to the hospital.
Miss Giggles.
Yeah, and then I had a few stents, a few days, some decent food, and then we were back at it. So, yeah, yada yada.
Who yada yada's a heart attack,
only an Army guy.
That's right. Yeah,
like
that
the
shows
only one.
dedication.
I hadn't told you where I'm from, man. I'm
I
from
know.
a
Let's hear
funny
about
place.
it. Let's
Where you
hear
from?
about it.
I am from Fuquay, Verena.
Oh wow,
Where's
that is a funny place.
Exactly, man.
There's a
Exactly.
lot of
It's-
people that have a
it's
hard
down
time
by Raleigh,
pronouncing
yeah.
that.
Few
Yeah.
people can say it, and nobody knows where it's at.
That's right.
If
Exactly.
you follow
Yeah.
Yellow Brick Road, you might
Exactly.
get
And
there.
it is not near a marina. I'll just add that.
So, my story of the Army is it's not really going to put me as a very smart person, but I was very good in architectural and drafting, and I applied to state. I always wanted to go to state school of design. I got accepted with scholarships, but only to the School of Textiles, which pissed me off. And I also had a nice Army offer. So at 17 years old, my mother and dad reluctantly signed, and I went into the Army at 17.
Wow.
And I was in boot camp my 18th birthday, and that's not a good place to be. No. On your birthday. So yeah, that's and I was a commo guy. Fort Bliss, went Fort Sill for my training, and spent my time over in Europe, in Germany, Mannheim, Germany, and I loved it.
Wow.
So jumping on in tanks and helicopters and screwing up their commo systems.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we love having you guys part of a Purple Heart Homes team and a Purple Heart Homes family for sure, doing some phenomenal work. Rob, while we're talking with you here, tell us a little bit about how you came to be at Purple Heart Homes and the work that you do for the team.
Well, the way I came to Purple Heart Homes is my boys were in Civil Air Patrol here in Statesville, and they had a Christmas event, I believe, and Dale came over and spoke, and told, it had to be early on, I can't remember, but it wasn't many years y'all had started it, and he was telling about his passion of wanting to build houses and yada, yada, yada. I saw this guy standing there. Yeah, I do that quite a bit. Standing there with no legs and telling me that, you know, he wanted to help other veterans. And, of course, you know, I'm a veteran, and once you're a veteran, you're always a veteran. You have brothers. So
That's right.
I've always wanted to serve and serve people. But, you know, sitting in that room that night, and I said, man, I want to do something to help him. And then, you know, it was probably four or 5 years later, maybe. And Brad, I knew Brad from a long time, and he had started you guys, and he had, you know, we've been talking back and forth, and that's when I came up and met you, and, you know, the rest is history.
So there's a little bit more history and a lot more depth to you there. And tell us about the mission work that you did prior to, and that pretty much aligns with, you know, not only Purple Heart Homes work, but it really aligns your character with our culture. And so tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, my wife and I decided to go into missions, and we packed up our 3 kids, youngest being not quite a year, and the oldest was 5, I think. And our family's screaming, and we packed up, moved to Mexico, and started doing mission work, helping build churches and orphanages. We built a hospital, a lot of pastor houses, bring groups in to do different things, maybe put metal on the roof, or, you know, whatever we could do to try to better somebody's life. And it was, and we lived off of, you know, people that supported us each month. You know, they'd send us a check. So some months were good, and some months were, you know, still good, but
not
very, very difficult. But it was awesome. We lived in Saltillo, which was right, the Sierra Madre Mountains run right through it, and we rented our house there. It was just a beautiful place to wake up, beautiful people, and enjoyed it. Would have still been there, but my wife got really sick, and we had to come back out. And then, you know, God just led our paths in different directions from there.
And that is really, really amazing. And, you know, so many folks have got such vast experience that they bring to the team. And it always just amazes me how your past and your experiences inform your future, and they align to be able to, you know, really give you the tools that you need, whether it's leading the volunteer groups, helping to build a tiny house, whether it's, you know, Mark and his team that are, you know, working on ramps, or whether it's Matt and his team, you know, out organizing and finding the materials and the donors to be able to support the projects. There's just so much that goes into it. And so we're just really blessed to have each of you here. As we're getting ready to wrap up, going into a break here, we'll come back and we'll hear more from Mark and Matt about their experience and their work that they're doing with Purple Heart Homes, and hear some funny stories about their time in the service, as well their time here at Purple Heart Homes. Devin, I got to say, this is probably the most quiet that I've ever heard you be. And
well,
I'm
a little afraid of Rob. I don't know if you've.
You're afraid of Rob?
Yeah. Did you not see what he did to me in Sarasota?
No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh!
We'll have to hear more about that. Did he lock you into the back of a truck?
He may have locked me in the back of a truck.
We'll definitely be talking about that when we get back. You're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. Stay tuned in and hear about our project of the week. We are back live with you in studio, and it's.
Are they still showing the devil dog?
You know, I think you know, I just learned something new, that, you know, it's you're going from from devil dog to ding dong. That's the new. It looks, instead of, you know, a Twinkie, it looks more like the old ding dong.
the radio personality formerly known as Devil Dogs. Ding dong.
Hey,
Yeah,
you're loved
yeah.
when your guests show up and they give you new nicknames.
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly love there, John. Why don't we get back into interviewing the guests? Hey, Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day at Purple Heart Homes?
Well, so trying to manage the PM teams and keep all them straight and putting out fires, you know. So
What kind of fires do you put out? Do you use a fire extinguisher?
no,
Should.
no, it's all a balancing act. You know, my role is the program services director. I manage a team of 5 project managers, and so we work with our chapters, and then if it's chapters cannot have or cannot do a project in their specific area for whatever rhyme or reason, then obviously we manage it. And we manage all projects nationwide out of the Statesville facility. And it continually amazes me every day.
So speaking of projects, Mark, why don't you tell us about our project of the week this week? What do we got going on here?
Project of the week this week is going to be Mr. William McAllister, sorry. It's a F3 project, which is a group that likes to go out and do things for veterans. I believe most of them are veterans as well, if I remember correctly. Brad Borders is part of F3.
Yep.
I think y'all have had them on the radio show before, too.
We have.
I believe so.
Great group. A lot of great guys. Navy veteran Robert Cannon is actually leading that group that's
right.
doing this project down there.
Yeah.
And then we got Russell Rao. He is going to be a part of that project. He's a part of the F3 group. And so tell us a bit about Mr. McAllister.
So Mr. McAllister, he's an Air Force veteran. I'm not exactly sure how long he was in, but he was during the Cold War time. He's 83 years old. He gets around still, does his thing, but he's definitely needing a lot of help nowadays. We're working on getting him a deck and a ramp starting next Monday. We're going to do Monday and Tuesday with him, tear down the old one and put a new one in so he can get in and out of his house quite easily. Making it a lot more conducive for his wife to get him to doctor's appointments or even just get out of the house, just to have some fresh air. That's the biggest thing for most veterans. If they can get out of the house, they're happy.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's so often veterans, they just don't have access to their community because they can't get in and out.
Right.
And that's a important service you provide there. And I know that you and Rob have both done a ton of ramps together. And so thank you so much for going out there and helping Mr. McAllister. I think he might be related to Santa Claus. I don't know. That's what I heard.
Yeah. I believe that's his father-in-law, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I tell you, just a great family all around. Really doing some neat stuff. And if you have not met Santa Claus, he's hard to miss. His Brad officiated his wedding to the Mrs. Claus.
I was a
here in
little
the community.
disappointed about that because he described that as his favorite wedding to officiate, and he also officiated my wedding. So
Yeah.
You don't count, Devin. No, I'm just playing.
yeah, I guess I wasn't very high up there.
Was your wedding online?
My wedding had to be on Facebook Live because both me and my wife had COVID.
Yeah. So were y'all quarantined in separate rooms on different streams?
Well, since we both had COVID, I don't think you can get any more COVID.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm not.
So that's not a thing.
I don't know COVID math. I'm not sure.
All right. Let's turn back to Matt and some of these fires that he's putting out. Matt, tell us about some of the challenges that you and your team face in doing some of these projects.
I think the challenges for us as a team is trying to keep you have compassion, obviously, and you have to have compassion in this line of business that what we do, and but at the same time recognize what is managing expectations. I think that's the biggest thing is obviously, as veterans that try to that seek our services, some of them have a lot more expectations of what we can do. They think that we're a $100 million organization, and we're not. And
I wish.
yeah. And at the same time, it's our expectations, because we want to assist them. We want to help out. And a lot of times, what we see veterans that when 2/3 of all applications are not done by the veteran. They're done by their significant other, number one. Mm-hmm. And then number two is that when the application process, once they come to us, that their issue has been exasperated for probably at least 1.5 to 2 years. And so nevertheless, the issue of the home itself is already a major problem. And so it compounds onto itself. And so we're trying to figure out what we physically can do. And then at the same time, one of the things that with Purple Heart Homes, with our organization, is we look at other sources of organizations that can come in and partner with us, because we can only do so much.
Right. So you're saying we partner together with other organizations to help these veterans?
That's one thing that I love about Purple Heart Homes. If we can work with other organizations, but at the same time, that veteran must qualify for those other organization services.
Sure.
You know, it's really unique. I think about some of the early work when we started out with, trying to help veterans and rehab homes and build new homes. We thought we had to do it all on our own, right? We kind of had this idea that it was not really a competition, but you didn't partner with other organizations. And some of the team members that have come along, like yourself, have really informed the organization's culture and the programs that we really get more done by partnering, right?
That's right.
And it's not about competition; it's about collaboration.
That's collaboration,
and we have seen tremendous growth because of that, and that we are able to ultimately reach further. We're able to help more and get more work done faster by doing this collaboration. So tell us about some of those partners that we work with.
Well, I think one of the biggest partners that we do is called the Simplifying America's Fund. And they are a wonderful national veteran nonprofit organization, and they assist veterans who have served physically in a combat theater, and so that's one of the things that separates them. But they also have their own other different types of programs, but they don't have like a home remodeling program. So they have now, once we kind of linked up with them probably about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. And so nevertheless, we kind of work together, and obviously both organizations are part of the Home Depot Foundation, which is one of our major partners. And so nevertheless, it's where we just are able to share the associated cost on maybe it's an HVAC or a roof or a combination of sorts, and it's just a little bit more what our bandwidth allows. Another organization is of course, Habitat for Humanity. And so obviously the veteran has to apply for them as well, but they have an internal Veterans Build affiliates that works with veterans. And so nevertheless, whenever we can work with them in some type of remodel or repair. And it was kind of interesting, that kind of partnership developed because we had requests from Oklahoma and Iowa and out in the Midwest and Colorado and stuff, and we didn't know contractors out there. We didn't know them, and so obviously Habitat has a larger presence and with their affiliates, and so that's how we started networking to go through them just to find a contractor, because we have to have a licensed and insured contractor. And so that's how that relationship developed and matured.
One of those things where connecting with those other organizations give you other resources.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Is there a particular veteran or that sticks out in your mind that you've helped over your time at Purple Heart Homes?
Well, I think going back to what John was talking about, the why. I served with John, and I've known John and Odell going all the way back to 1998. And so for me, I kept in touch with them. Then I was fortunate enough to retire. And so after 2013, just still kept in touch, did some volunteer work. And then shortly after Dale's passing is whenever I came on board. And one of my very first projects was a gentleman by the name of David Parker. And it still gets me emotions, but that summer of '98, he was actually referred to us by the Combat Veterans Motorcycles Association, but I don't think he ever rode a motorcycle because he's 100 years old. and so nevertheless, what happened was that his bathroom was needed remodeled. Well, his family had paid for a contractor to go in, and they stifled the family. The floor joists were 2x4s.
Oh my gosh.
There was no insulation in the bathroom. And they had just put up wall paneling. And I remember his wife saying that it was just always so cold in there, she couldn't understand why. And
Really?
so nevertheless, local, lives down in Troutman, off of Parkertown Road. And so nevertheless, we got in there, and so I come to find out, he served in the Navy on the USS Bunker Hill. Now, Bunker Hill, I'm a big history buff. I've never heard of the Bunker Hill. It was an aircraft carrier during World War II, over during the Philippines and Okinawa, and it was hit by four kamikazes, right?
Wow.
Now, so it killed like 200 some odd men. Now, here's the thing about it, is that Mr. Parker is African American. He's a black man. So he wasn't on the flight deck. He had to be down. He had to be below down the deck. That's where he worked at. And so he's having a fight, fighting against the war against the Japanese. But at the same time, that also those the conflicts of our society at that time. And so that really just and a very humble man. And so nevertheless, we took care of his bathroom. We made it ADA acceptable. And his wife was always, he says, now I have heat and my bathroom's warm, and we actually did flooring repair in the house, and we took up some old carpet. We put down some LVT flooring in the home, and then we actually did a roof repair on his house. So for me, it was just that recognized, what all he went through. But yet he still served, just as humble as could be. Beautiful man and family.
What an amazing story.
That is, and we meet so many veterans that have these stories that you just you almost can't even imagine them, right? Mm-hmm. It's you think both the times and the way that our nation is today. You just can't hardly imagine what it would have been like, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And the number of veterans that we help that are those older veterans, that's really the majority of, who we serve. While we serve veterans of all generations and, from all branches, even the Marine Corps. All right, Devil Dog. We really want to, make sure that we're serving those older veterans first, right? That they have that, that priority. And so many of them have been left behind and just not served. And
so many organizations out there specifically are helping post 9/11 vets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So, Rob, tell us about a project that stood out for you. You've traveled really all over with Purple Heart Homes, doing projects from Alaska to Arizona and Florida, and Devin mentioned a few minutes ago a trip that you guys made down to Florida, and that you did something to.
Yeah, we should just go ahead and cover that first.
Yeah, let's do that
before we talk about anything else.
That's a good one.
So, and before he starts with his side of the story,
oh my gosh,
Devin's head got burnt in Florida. It was really funny looking.
More than it is now.
And I thought about this in Florida, and now that you've got the devil dog thing up there, it brought back the memory. I don't think that's really totally correct. I think it looks more like those snowballs, the pink snowballs.
Snowballs.
The top of his head. So,
Yeah.
Maybe we can get a picture of that for before too long. Man, there's tons and tons of project that tug at your heart that some the need was so large that you wanted to do it right then as soon as you saw it, and some we were able to turn around really, really quickly. Others take a while, but it's hard to pull out like one. But I think the one that's coming to my mind is that little guy in Arizona, and basically all I did is kind of coordinate a chair lift from his base. He just wanted to wash his clothes. He was, God, I don't know how old he was, but he was in the Bataan Death March.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a prisoner of war. He got beat in the knees with a pickaxe, and I think the movie that was made, that guy, he was in the same camp. The bird or whatever. So, but that little guy, he's little bitty, 4 foot tall, and just hearing him sing when I go, just so happy and just hearing him sing a song.
If I remember right, you tried to saw up a tree in his backyard and he wouldn't let you.
Yeah, I got the fire department out there to saw this tree up, and he's woo. I got to have something to do every day. So, and he gets out there with a handsaw and saws every day. So, just bless my heart, man. Him and his little bitty wife, both of them are little bitty people.
Yeah. So we're going to cut to a break here real quick, and you are listening to Putting the Pieces, presented by Purple Heart Homes, and we are happy to have our special guest on here today with us. But you'll hear more of their stories when we return. All right, we are back live with you, Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. We have in studio with us Matt Stevenson, Program Director for Purple Heart Homes, along with Mark Grindall, who is our volunteer. What is your title, Mark?
Construction manager.
Construction manager
of the tiny homes.
That's right. It's changed. It's changed quite a few times, so I have a hard time keeping up. Then we got our production director, Rob Harrell. Rob, you were just telling us before we went to break about a project you worked on in Arizona, where the veteran was in the Bataan Death March, and it was a particular part of that story that I'm aware of, but our listeners aren't, and that I want you to talk about. And you had mentioned his physical training that he did, where he took a handsaw and he'd go out and cut on the tree, maybe not even cutting a full log off each day, but that's how he was staying physically fit. But in addition to that, how he took care of his home and his bride. Tell us about how he would get to his laundry room.
Well, they had a basement, which was kind of weird in Arizona. But anyway, there was a basement, and there was a set of steps that was way too steep. It was at least 8.5 inches on a rise, and like I said, he couldn't walk that well, and he got scared. He's fallen down it before, and he got scared, and that's where he washed his clothes. So he had to have someone come over and do it. He didn't want his wife walking down because she was, about as bad as he was. So and I got a video of him riding down that chair, and the smile on his face, and just singing, and he would just sing all the time. And he played golf once a week, every week.
Really?
Yes, which was impressive. But his yard, he took care of it. I mean, that's what he did. That's what kept him alive, I think, Mm-hmm. And probably what, keeps me alive too is just, having challenges and working and whatever, if we kind of quit, I just don't think that's good for us.
No shortage of me ever stopping to challenge you, right?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to.
Daily.
Yeah, I will have to. Eventually, I'll have to cut you off. Whenever we get to that point, but no.
So from veterans that, we've seen over the years crawling into their bathroom because they're an amputee and their wheelchair wouldn't fit through the door, to veterans scooting down steps on their rear end one step at a time because their steps weren't safe and they couldn't get up and down, to all these stories of veterans and the challenges that they face. That's got to have an impact on you all and what drives you to do that work. And any of you want to speak to that and what that does for your passion and how that fuels you each day?
I will. I believe that just by being able to help our fellow brothers and sisters that have served along with us, maybe before or even after, it brings a lot of joy to the heart to know that you're able to be there to help them. There was a lot of people that got left behind, a lot of veterans that were not even considered looked at for anything, and their needs and wants just for a safe life in their house is huge.
Excuse me. For me, it was. I never knew the depth of the need that's out there. Mm-hmm. I came over to volunteer with PHH just because of the camaraderie. I want to come over and just to hang out, and hang out with friends and stuff and everything. And we did a couple projects or whatnot and all. But it was until you are in this line of work, is that you don't understand the need. And it's really very eye-opening, as in what the housing insecurities are for our nation's veterans and their families. And one thing that I will say is that housing insecurity affects mental wellness and stability.
Absolutely.
And until our folks that's higher up understand that, because they want to throw money at mental wellness, well, get housing took care of, because that will offset that mental stability.
It's really interesting, Matt. That's come to light so much over the last year and a half within our team, that it's not just that we are rehabbing homes or making homes accessible or making them safe. We're really fighting suicide.
That's right.
Right. We're fighting the epidemic of suicide in the veteran community as a whole, letting veterans know that we see them, we hear them, and that they matter. Their needs matter. Their families matter. The work to provide safety and accessibility within a home impacts the entire family. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the spouse, whether it's the children, it is impacting the entire family to help make all of their lives better. And you all do that every day. And Rob, spoke to some of the challenges and staying busy. But I know one of the things that really causes you stress, Matt, is the backlog, the pipeline of need that is out there. Yep. And what's the current rate of applications coming into the organization right now?
We're averaging right at 5 a day.
And so that's got to be a little bit of a burden on you and your team to know that there's only so many resources. Right. And how might people that are listening get involved and be able to support, and where might that support be needed?
Well, that's a big question. I think for me is number one is if you really cannot be physically involved, is join our Hearts of Honor Club. All of us here, we're all members of the Hearts of Honor Club, and it could be just $10 a month. And my team and the organization, we take pride, and we take that $10, and we will expand that and stretch that out to $100 value, and bring it in other organizations, and so at the same time is obviously trying to volunteer, and then or post something on social media about our organization, and or send us a video or something of that nature about if you've been impacted about Purple Heart Homes. I'm definitely not the techno person, but the YouTube video or whatever it is. So,
Yeah,
Thank you.
fantastic.
That's awesome.
And Mark, with the work that you're doing, what would you share with the listeners about how they may get involved and support some of your efforts? A little bit different than Matt. You work on different types of projects. Share a little
Right.
bit about that, please.
So the majority of what we work on, or that I work on with our team, is building our tiny homes. Our tiny homes are for our veterans that are, needing a good place, stable place, a warm place to be that they can call home. And, it's not free. The lumber ain't free. Everything we use isn't free. So we need as much help as possible to be able to help our fellow brothers and sisters that need it. I like to point out too that, I would dare say the majority of military members are almost too proud to ask for help.
yep.
And that's
absolutely true.
the hardest thing, because when you go in, you see some of these houses that people live in, these veterans live in, they are too proud to ask for help, and then ends up being almost too late. And for us to be able to come in, with Matt's team and with Rob and I being able to come in with the tiny homes and helping them out, just, seeing their faces, seeing their eyes light up, seeing them being able to get around and do what they need to do, is just the icing on the cake there. It makes everybody happy.
It reminds me of the project we worked on down in Concord, the veteran we did. That was with Lowe's.
Grover
and
Monk.
Grover Monk.
Mm-hmm.
And just
2 years
hearing you
ago.
say, seeing his eyes light up,
Yep.
Grover was blind.
Yep.
But one of the things he said on his interview when he first saw the house, when he came back in,
Yep.
he's in a wheelchair. He's got these super dark glasses on, and he's like, "It looks so great."
Yep.
So I could just imagine. But I don't think it was that he actually could see what work had been done and he liked the paint color.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the warmth of the people that supported. It was the people
the
coming
security.
together,
Absolutely.
and him knowing that he was loved and he was not
Right.
forgotten, and his service wasn't just
In
for
vain.
nothing or in
Yep.
vain.
Right.
And
He felt
that's
valued.
that's got to have an impact on the volunteers as well.
Yep.
And so, Rob, would you want to speak to maybe some of the volunteers you've worked with, and how that's been seen, how you've seen an impact with some of them?
Yeah. Well, I've always been around construction, other than even before the Army and after and stuff. I've done pretty much everything there is to do as far as like house building and stuff. At some point, I suck at some things. By the way, cement could be one.
I second that.
Yeah.
I'm the same way too.
I
so-
was not
don't
going to
feel-
say
I can't say much.
anything.
Wow, just throwing the shade.
No. If I'm not good in something, I'll admit it. But I'll get better at it. I'll YouTube it.
yeah.
I'll figure out how to do it.
We only make fun of me on this
Yeah,
section.
y'all gonna get me off the subject. I don't even know what we were talking about.
Volunteers.
We've, I've worked with all kinds. We've done all kinds of projects, and it goes back to even the mission teams, the volunteers or the mission participants, if you want to think about it. We build up to the point to where we're going down and we're going to do this and we're going to bless these people, and it's all about what we're going to go do, right? But every single time, and it worked on the mission field, and it works on these ramp projects and stuff. The participants are the one that receive the biggest blessing. Mm-hmm. The veteran gets taken care of, so we've done our job as a company. We've taken care of that safety need, but the participants get way more than anything can personally buy. I've had we built a ramp, and seriously, and this guy that we did Saturday, I couldn't even finish it before they go down it. I mean, and you're like, did I get everything screwed down? I hadn't. You hold on to this board, but they're so excited to be able to get out of the house by themselves, and we don't really think about that. Use volunteers in that. We use volunteers in the building of our tiny homes, in the warehouse, and I use volunteers for all the crazy, ridiculous visions that you have that it was cast upon me to figure out how to pull off.
But we love making them happen, though.
You were talking earlier about,
And you can come be a part of that too. Whatever it'll be, I'll guarantee it'll be important.
Rob
and
is
it'll be
the one guy that does constantly go, yeah, no more, no. That's he draws the line in the sand for John.
He may say that at that moment, but when he walks away, he's like, damn, I got to go do it now.
So we're picking on John. Can we change the moniker from veteran tiny house to veteran small house? We go from the VTH to the VISH. It's a little more. The VISH. Yeah.
Vish.
Yeah, veteran small house.
You'll have to talk with Carrie about that. That's her department. She named it.
Okay.
She named it the veteran tiny house. I just want to add one more thing in there as we're talking about volunteers and talking about the veteran, types of projects. There's a theory in how these projects are approached. There's a study done a number of years back by the National Jewish Federation, and the study came out with a process called the patient-centered trauma-informed process, and how projects, particularly around housing, are approached, and I think it's something that you all do very naturally, whether you know it or not. But whether the veteran has a physical ailment, whether the veteran is suffering from post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury or military sexual trauma, there's a kindness, and Matt, you mentioned it earlier, the compassion that goes in and the communication that goes into working with the veteran and then bringing the volunteers alongside. That is almost enlightening in the process of doing the work, that you're learning some of the challenges that people face when they have these types of issues. And I know we're working on a project out in Montana right now for a lady who has suffered from a military sexual trauma. And we think about, this, issue as a whole, being in the military, and the military being predominantly, male. Mm-hmm. And then you think about the construction industry, it's predominantly male driven as well. And then you have a female who's trying to get their home rehabbed. Right? We need, in particular, people that are compassionate, that in some cases it's maybe a husband and wife team, or maybe it's just a female contractor that can come alongside and be able to work on these types of projects. We do more of those types of projects than any of the other nonprofits. Mm-hmm. Mostly because of the trust factor that's been developed in the veteran community by you all and the work that you do. And so if you're a listener out there, please get involved, reach out, check out the website, phhusa.org. Again, that's phhusa.org, or you can Google Purple Heart Homes to learn more. We've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes, and we are thankful for each one of our guests today. Thank you for your service, and thank you for the work that you continue to do to serve our nation's finest.
Yeah, awesome.
You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders. Join us again next Tuesday at 8 a.m. and Saturday at 5 p.m. for Putting the Pieces Back Together on News Talk WSIC.